To this point though is just you know, how you handle it again, and just trying to see, you know, communicate that. That's what, one of the things I'm trying to do.
Do you understand me, how I feel?
You, if I understand, I mean, you want to help others.
Yes,
That's basically sums it up right there.
That's what my goal is.
And you have done that a lot. You've done, you know.
This week now, see, we play cards, a little game of cards, a skip bow. It's a child's game, but some of us women go down on Monday nights to play skip bow, and so the thing of it was that when I first came here, I never heard of skip bow, and so I picked up the box that they had the cards in, and on the bottom of it, it said ages 7 and up. And I told them I didn't ever play this. And I read that, and I said, 7 and up. Maybe I could try. So, okay, and I liked it. Well, in the group that we're playing, we could play any amount, maybe 5 or 6 and whatever, or get down to even 4. And there was a little lady there, and she was 102 or 3 years old.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm.
She'll keep talking and talking, and a lot of times she'll get up to leave here, and I'll be so tired, I'll stand there, and pretty soon I just got, and so now she would have kept on talking if I had just stood there. and it isn't anything important.
Just somebody to talk to.
But I hated to do that but I just knew that she'd be there all after. I tell her
Right.
I've got company, and then if I would tell anybody
is
that.
Is this somebody in the house building, or is this somebody in the building, or?
Yeah, she's just on this floor.
Yeah. Well, she's probably lonely. And
So she'll come again. She'll call.
Today?
No, I hope not. But even so, she does that with everybody though. She gets them on the phone and just keeps talking.
Yeah.
So I told her I had to leave. Okay. Now what was we on?
You were talking about your skip bow, and that there's this 100-year-old plus woman.
And so this little lady she and her husband were golf pros, and so she was quite a lady, and he was gone already because she was up in years now, and so anyway, we played skip bow with her in this group of ladies. This one even played too, and so then she had her birthday, and she was 105 that day of her birthday, and so I went to the birthday party, and I told her, Mabel, you look just like a bride. She was in a white dress with little white shoes. I quick as you could ever think of it. Sorry. Let's see, how is this? Fresh out of quarters. And I thought, you know, if anybody that's that old and doesn't have to stop to think, I had to even stop to think what I was going to say there. That comes just right out. Sorry, fresh out of quarters. So, and she meant she'd give me a quarter for the compliment if she hadn't. But so this week then, it's been bothering me because now she broke a leg, and then she broke an arm, and she's in another group now. And so I hadn't never gone to see her because she wasn't very well. I made up my mind one day this last week, regardless of what I've got to do, I'm going to go see her. And I got there right at dinner time, and so they were eating their lunch, and but they told me to just go up and said you'll have to talk real loud because she's really hard hearing in the one ear and can hear some if you talk to her in the other. And she made me promise to come back to see her, and I told her yes, I will be back. So that's one of the things that now this week, and these women that were sitting there said, you know, I never saw her be so happy for a long time. She had a smile on her face because I told her, you remember we played skip boat, and I got her to thinking about that, and so that was my duty that day, to start working on people. That now, like with her, I know that I made her so happy that day. If I can go back another day, and then I will feel like as though that I have helped somebody. And then, okay.
So who are some, can you think of some of the other people you've written letters to and that helped? And let's see, we've got the Marshalls.
Yes.
And we've got these people that are here today.
You know that I got 118 birthday cards.
118 birthday cards.
And
Wow.
I tried to answer those all, and I couldn't quite make it.
Oh,
So, but well, for my, were you here for my birthday? Yes, I thought you were. They said there were over 100 there. And
It was a lot.
so a lot of people left cards, you know, that day, and then a lot of people that sent cards, and I tried to, and I said, ooh, boy, I can't do that anymore. That was a big struggle, because to find, you know, get them all together and get them downstairs. And so I want to send it to anybody that writes to me, but I may miss a few this year. And
well, let's see, we were talking about the dreams with Jimmy, so you don't have those dreams anymore?
anyway.
The dream about Jimmy starving,
little Jimmy.
you don't have that
No,
dream
no,
anymore?
No.
So that one day, all of a sudden, you noticed you weren't having it anymore?
Gone. It was frightening. I was afraid to go to sleep.
Yeah, I know.
Because if I go to sleep, I knew that that dream was going to come, and I would be up there like I was lost and trying to find him, and he was so hungry,
Yeah.
and so I was never so glad to get.
the only?
That was enough to make me almost, and so I knew that you have to kind of make yourself a little bit. Kill yourself, get out of it.
So when did you have those dreams?
Well, it would have been shortly after he was gone.
So it was the first year after his
Yeah.
death?
Because he was such a sweetie, and I was just always so proud of him, because he was my first little boy, and I wanted him to really. And he was a character, so he was loved by everybody. But even so, I was sure glad that I mastered the dreams, and that helped me too.
So did you try to start having kids? I noticed it was like 3 years later before Larry was born.
Yeah.
So were you trying, or did you not want to try anymore, or?
Well, I tell you what I did. This will show you how I wanted to have children. I had appendicitis, and so I had surgery, and they always said you should be checked before you ever expect, and we were married, and I went to the doctor and told him that, because he said that before I had children I should be checked from the surgery, see if it was all healed. Okay, so I went into him and I said, you know what, I would like to have a little boy for Christmas. And I said, can you tell me about when I should have this, I can have one at Christmas time. And that'd be the 25th of December. Well, that was for the one the oldest one, Jimmy. And he said, well, I tell you what, I think that's going to work real well. So you can go ahead and have your little boy if you think you're going to get a little boy for Christmas. He came the 22nd of December. He didn't come the 25th. But when he was born, and we had never went to hospitals. The babies were all born out in the country, and the doctors would come there. And so I told the doctor after he was born on the 22nd. I want to see you in 2 years. I want one for my birthday. And my birthday is the 23rd of January, but I said, I just thought I'd put my order in now. And so he was born the 30th then. So, or 23rd, yeah.
The 20th,
he was born
He's doing the
20th of January. And so I decided then, when Larry came, I said, I think I'll just set my own fire on. I was just going to say, Larry, you've got to come because we got to have 4 children. I just knew we had to have 4. And so I didn't ask the doctor anymore to tell me the dates because he wasn't really on the, that was pretty close though.
Yeah, he was real close.
I imagine that anybody knows as hard as you work and what you do, they would laugh at what you're listening to of me rambling on all this stuff.
Oh yeah, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
See, what'll happen is I'll listen to it, and and I'm here for quite a while, but there'll be just little snippets here and there that will be taken out.
That's right.
And put into the thing, and
well, it's
so
unreal. I never know people did this kind of thing.
Well, they do. I kind of actually I want to do documentaries and stuff, a little bit, but I don't have much time.
Now, your dad told me that you have a lot of apartments.
Yeah, I do.
I tell you, I told somebody that was in the family, maybe it was Jack, I said, I think that he's really a smart kid because I said, here he bought his own and then developed it into a whole lot more apartments.
Yeah.
And that's been a moneymaker for you.
Yeah, I hope so. I think so. It has.
Is it hard to handle apartments?
It's busy. You have a lot of, and then it's working with people can be hard sometimes.
I wondered.
And, so yeah, it's there's
you find some that care and some that don't.
Right. And then there's probably a fourth of them that aren't really as good as you'd like them to be, but then there's 3/4 of them that are pretty good.
Why
So,
do you furnish them with all the basics?
No, they just have a building. I mean, they bring all their stuff. I just perform, just like this here. You brought all this, right?
Oh.
This was empty when you moved in, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all it is. It's just an empty place, and then they bring their stuff. I might give them the refrigerator. You're right.
Refrigerator and stove.
Stove, yeah. I have those.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
But not actually. Some of them don't have refrigerators, but some.
Yeah.
Anyway, it just depends. It seems like houses typically you don't put the refrigerator in there because they seem to have their own, But anyway, yeah, it keeps me busy. It keeps me busy.
I can see that it would be quite a job because I have had, now since I've been here, the refrigerator, they brought in a new one. I told them that things weren't it wasn't really cooling, my refrigerator wasn't cooling. And so the guys came in and tested it, and they said, well, we'll be back after a while. And there they came and unpacked this brand new one then and took the other one and pushed it over in the kitchen hole there. And I thought, I've got to go get boxes so I can put the stuff that's in my refrigerator into, to get it moved over. This guy there were 2 of them working, he said, you don't have to do that. Said, we'll just unload the one into the other. Oh boy, they did, but I didn't know where anything was then.
Yeah.
I had to go through it anyway. But so they're very, they are very good here about taking care of you. They won't let us put a light bulb in because they said that they'd rather put the than broken legs.
Right.
And so they're very good to come in, and because I a lot of times have things that aren't working right, and even like the air conditioner over there, why it kept coming on, and I couldn't get it to shut off. So that's why I hadn't touched it since they did that the other day. Hopefully that it would shut off on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, I don't know. Let's see. Let me look through my list here. We've pretty much talked about a lot, haven't we?
yes, we have, because I've talked and talked and talked to you.
Yes. Gotten you to talk a lot, haven't I?
Well, it doesn't matter, but I have to laugh. So many young people that used to come, they want to come back and hear more stories, and I tell them a different thing about the ponies and the different things, you know. And I was so amazed that I had so many younger people, you know, that wanted to hear my stories, and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And
Well, let's see. Well, what about, let's see, you were born in 1915. You married Bud in 1932. So you would have been, like, I was thinking of events like the stock market crash. During the stock market crash, you probably don't remember any, you were really young at that time.
well, it was in 29.
Yeah, so you'd have been 14.
Yeah.
So that was pretty
well,
young.
Now I know that my father-in-law was a person that had several farms and had lots and lots of cattle. He was up in 1,000, and you know, when that came, that almost took everything he had.
Mm.
And because he only had, let's see, maybe he had 2 farms left. They had 8 children, and Bud was the baby of the bunch. And so then when we moved there, we bought the home place ourselves then from all of the estate boys, or his brothers and their wives. And so on that, well then, like I told you, that it was so strange because Bud was born in this one room, and the boys were all born in that same room, and that's a kind of an unreal thing too.
Mm-hmm.
And but I never had very much family, with only just my little brother. And when I got married, there was 7 brother-in-laws and 7 sister-in-laws, and then some nephews, and some of the nephews were about my age. And so it was kind of funny. And
Yeah.
so
Well, with Bud being the youngest,
yeah, he was the
and
youngest.
there was the oldest was a
He
lot.
was
There's
older
quite
than
a
my
years.
father.
Yeah.
It was so true. His brother-in-laws.
So now, do you remember? Okay, there's Lewis.
Uh-huh.
Now that's right. Lewis, he committed suicide because
That,
it was that horrible year with that Jimmy died,
yes,
and that Violet's house, or not Violet, Sophie's house burnt down.
that's right.
And so,
I remember these just like yesterday.
yeah, because whose funeral was they at when Sophie's house, was it Jimmy's funeral?
Yes, it was little Jimmy's.
Jimmy's funeral.
Uh-huh. And that was really a very bad year, because it just something happened to your Uncle Toots got his arm pulled off.
Oh yeah.
And
In a thrasher.
He was running a thrashing machine, and a belt pulled his arm off. And let's see, there were so many things happened right at that same time. But with Uncle Mike and Aunt Sophie's home burning, like it did, they didn't have clothes, or they didn't have nothing, because it took everything they had.
The thing that seems funny to me though is, why would Lewis want to? I mean, it's not the end of the world to have your kids lose everything. I mean, that's a tragic, but it's not like it's the end of the world. It just seems like, but I know if his grandson died, that would have been very traumatic for him.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe he just didn't feel.
You mean when he took his life?
Yeah, when he took, it wouldn't seem like all of that put together maybe, I guess, just having your grandson be lost. Had he lost other grandchildren? I can't think of anybody.
Recall right off, but
I
do
can't think of
know,
anybody that else. Yeah.
we had gone to get apples that day, and in an orchard in Missouri, and so our hired man went with us, but we asked Grandpa to, what is it?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And asked Grandpa if he wanted to go along, and he said no, he'd rather just stay home and rest. So we went to get the apples to Missouri then for winter, and so when we got back, well, he wasn't there in the house, you know, like Bud went in to go in and open the house, and we was going to put the apples away. And we had quite a hard time locating him because he had taken his life in the barn. And so we found him and got him up to the house, and he was not gone yet, but got the doctors there. I hurried and got on the phone and called Chris and two different ones that I could get a hold of, and the doctor, but he passed away then, but he wrote a note that just too much had happened. I can't take anymore. So I guess that all of it together was, he felt like as though that he couldn't handle anymore. And so
well, he did lose a son, Otis.
Otis.
He lost
Yes,
Otis,
one
drowned
of them
in
drowned up there in, yes, sure did. I always, whenever I went to do the chores there with the hogs and everything, I always remembered that would have been where Otis died, in that pond there. It was an oil pond where they were oiling hogs. And then Bud's mother died when he was out in the yard there, and this would have been before I met them at all. And but she died with a heart attack, and Bud was there with her when she passed away. And but then it just seemed like the one thing right after the other after we were married, and there were just lots and lots of different things with that big a family. Finally, all these brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws, I went to every one of those funerals, and there would have been a lot of funerals, about 14 of them, about like that. And so it's been kind of well, of course, it's a life like a lot of people have lived, because back in those years, a lot of people had lost their families, you know. So, and my folks were a lot younger than Bud's folks, because my dad was not nearer the age of Grandpa Herman, and as Bud was quite a bit younger or older than I, and then of course then Dad he was young when I was born. He was 21, I think, something like that. Well, anyway, it was there is a lot of history goes on in the world, isn't there, when you get all these people that are out there and get to the histories.
So, do you remember much about Peter, which would be Lewis's dad?
Who?
Lewis's dad, Peter. Do you remember anything? Was he around when you were around, or was he gone by then? It'd be
Lewis's
Peter.
dad.
Lewis's dad was Peter.
I don't. Oh, Peter.
You don't remember? Did you ever meet? Was he
no,
around?
They
I don't
were
remember.
Gone.
When
the grandma and grandpa
were
were both gone when I got married.
Because the story is Lewis came from St. Louis with his dad.
Yes.
And if I understood right, he had siblings.
I didn't never know.
That died too.
I never heard.
That's
of
what I've heard is that there was some kind of a epidemic that was in St. Louis, and
that's why they
Peter
got out
lost
of there.
all of his children except Lewis, and he says, "Well, we're getting out of here."
That's right.
And he leaves. Is that what you've heard? Is
Yes,
that where I got
that
it
is
from?
right.
Okay, so I was just wondering, somebody my niece goes to school with is a hermit.
Who?
Is my niece, my niece's teacher is a hermit,
Uh-huh.
and she's kind of into genealogy a little bit, and she said something about Hermans coming from St. Louis, and so I was just wondering, I'm going to have to meet with her sometime to see if there's any connection there, but
I don't.
you know, you'd think that that's a probably, could be a high likelihood that there's a connection since that's where we came
This is
from.
right.
Yeah.
Well, we.
But see, I think what would have happened is, you know, Peter came in New Orleans, I'm sure, and then probably rode up the Mississippi River,
That could
and
be.
then decided for some reason,
I think
whatever
he
that is.
met the grandma on the boat.
Oh, he did?
I thought I read or heard that,
Really?
that they came on the boat.
I don't remember that.
No,
You mean the boat from over the ocean?
Yeah, when they came over.
Huh.
But let's see, I had something else pass through here. What was it that I was going to ask about? Was something else. Oh, when we moved on on construction and was giving up, Bud was tired farming, and so he liked construction work. So then we bought a trailer and we started traveling. And Billy was already in the service, and Larry and Richard were with us. So we went south. We got into, oh dear, different places down there. Anyway, we got to this one town, and it was the bigger town where the work was going to be that Bud was working. And the boys, Larry was in high school, so got him into high school, and Richard was in grade school, so got him into school there. So one day I said to Larry, what did they think with a Herman coming in? And he said, what do you mean? I said, I think everybody must be a Herman here. Well, I then started getting mail in our box there, and it had a lot of girls' names on it and Hermans. So I went to the post office, and I told the postmaster, you know, I wished we did have girls in our family. But I said, we don't, but I'm getting a lot of mail for girls. And he said, ma'am, if you only knew, we got over 200 Hermans coming that are here in our post office that are listed. And I had no idea, but they spelled the same.
Which city is that?
Here, this little town had the liquor store Hermans, and the grocery store was Herman's.
Where's that at?
It's south of, it's in Kansas.
Yeah.
But it's south of, oh dear. I said, I was always pretty sharp of everywhere it was, but this took care of me too. Where in the world was that south of? There was a school there, a big school, and in this town, and then south of it was Minneapolis, Kansas is where we went.
Minneapolis, Kansas?
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Minneapolis, Kansas, and it had nothing but Hermans. And so
Maybe I
then,
have to go down there someday.
this is right. And it was funny, I went to work then in a restaurant there, and I had to laugh. The guys got, where they were working, we had a terrible, terrible storm, and they couldn't work the road, and so Bud and Larry both went to work for the fire or the water department to try to get the water going, and they were working there. So the school they couldn't have for a while because everything was kind of blocked off. So I went to the restaurant there, and I told this, I said, who is the owner of the restaurant or manager? And one of the girls said, she's right over there. And I had Richard sitting in the car out there waiting for me, and so I ran over and I said to her, do you happen to need help? And that lady looked at me and she said, don't you leave. And I said, told her, oh, I got my little boy sitting out in the car waiting for me. And she said, I give you a job if you want to come and work. And so, okay. And I worked in this restaurant then. It was a big restaurant and in Minneapolis. And so when we got ready to leave, well, Bud knew the foreman on Tuttle Creek, and they stayed with us or visited with us a lot. And he called and said if Bud would get there to Tuttle Creek, why he could have a job. And so that would be bringing us back up to Manhattan then. So, okay, we went then, came back up to Manhattan. That's when we moved here, was after we'd been out there and where all the Hermans were. So,
so let's see, you guys met at Barnes.
Yeah.
Or in that area.
Yeah.
But then when you first got married, you went to Minneapolis?
No, we went right to the farm.
Okay, so how did Minneapolis fit into the picture?
Well, that was when we left our farm and rented it out there, and took the trailer and got the trailer so that he could work. This man, young boss, said he could work out there in Minneapolis, and so.
So when did you rent the farm?
Hmm?
So you rented the farm out?
Yeah.
So you bought the farm.
We were 25 years.
Oh, okay. So you lived there 25 years and then rented it.
Yeah, we rented it.
And then at that time
well, we didn't sell it until we moved here to Manhattan.
So then you went to Minneapolis. And then Tuttle Creek got you back to the area.
Got us back to Manhattan.
Got you back to Manhattan, and then that's when you sold the farm.
Yeah, then we had our trailer when we moved back here to Manhattan then, and we parked up by Tuttle Creek, and we lived in the trailer up there for quite a while. And we went downtown one day here in Manhattan, and I wanted to get, because Richard and Larry were both in the trailer and going to school. So I told Bud I saw where that one of those houses right up there where Richard goes to, or where the boys go to school, or Richard did. Why, I said, they're having a sale. And so we went up there and looked things over, and it was kind of a funny thing. It had 5 acres to it, this home did, and so there were 5 acres, and this lady wanted to sell. And so she went out and talked with Bud about it for a little while, and we were there, and then we had friends that lived in Manhattan, so we decided they kind of pretty much know how to buy and sell stuff, and so went over and talked to them, and they said they'll go over with us and talk to her, or see what it is. And so Bud and this friend of ours, they had come from up on the farm too, and they went out with the lady that owned it, and it was really funny. She said, well, I'll go show you, want to see. She was kind of blunt like, and so the men went out, and his wife and I sat there and visited in this house. And so when they got back to the house, then the 2 men and her, and came in there where we were, and she just real blunt said, well, what are you going to do? Looked at Bud. And this friend said, if he don't take it, I will. Bud says, hell, I'm taking it. And so sure as the world, that's how we bought that place. And so, but the 5 acres is all Herman addition now. When we sold that off, and they built 20 houses in there, why, we sold it to a young developer, but I said there's one thing I want. It has to be the Herman addition. So I told the grandkids, this area by the on Allen Road, That area is all the Herman Edition. I'm leaving that for a name for you guys.
So is it say that right now if we drive
Yeah,
over there?
if anybody buys a piece there, it's from the Herman Edition.
But does it have a sign somewhere that says this is the Herman Edition?
I don't know I don't know if it's up on anything, but all the houses, all their paperwork is all the Herman Edition, and it's always in the paper if somebody sells, and to the Herman Edition. So I thought that's all I could do for them, to let them have a name in there.
Yeah.
And but it worked out pretty good in getting rid of all of those houses, and they wanted to the builder wanted to build us a new one, and I said no, don't want to do that. For some reason I didn't want to build a new house there, and so anyway, when Larry got so ill and told me he didn't want me living there alone after I was all alone, I said,
so when did you move in here? It was 2002.
wasn't
It was 2002 when you moved in here.
yes. And that's, I just moved right in from
And Bud
the
died.
sale.
Bud died like in 72 or something, didn't he?
That we bought it.
No, Bud passed away in the 70s?
Yeah, in 79,
79.
I believe so.
So you were there 20-some years
Yeah.
by yourself?
No, we were there 50 years.
Well, I mean, by yourself, you were there 20-some.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
But
yes,
then,
I
okay,
was.
so in
Well, that's when I married Millis then. And
Okay.
after, because he and his wife were our best friends.
Oh, yeah.
And we lived by each other. They had 2 boys, and of course our boys were older than theirs. And but we were very close friends. And when Bud passed away with cancer, why his wife wasn't very long till she died with a heart attack. And so we both were alone, and he worked construction way to Colorado and back. He worked for a long time, and so he would stop and say hello. And one day we got to thinking about the boys didn't ever get to see each other, and so he said that that would make a nice for them for Christmas. Then we talked a little longer, and then we decided if we got married, why then they'd have a home too. And so okay, then we got married, and so I have the 2 stepsons, are both, well, one in California and one in Kansas City, and so their wives are both real nice little girls for me. But one of them calls me put near every Sunday from Kansas City, and she is quite a football. Gotta see what's going on. I just
You seem like you still have a lot of energy.
Well, I seem to. Sometimes it grows.
What time do you go to bed at night? Like, what time do you go to bed?
Well, I try to get there after the 10 o'clock news.
Oh, okay, so you do stay up that late. So 10:30.
As a rule, why I don't go to sleep like I think I would, and I have a lot of times got up to look to see just what time is it. Oh, it means it's 12:30. I believe it is 12:30, And here I don't go to sleep.
And then
early,
you get up early
then
in the morning?
I get up early.
Yeah, like 6 or something? Or?
Yeah, I just always get up. Now, like tonight now, of course, and I'm not going, but always on Sunday night at 7, go downstairs for church.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Did you go this morning?
No, I didn't this morning, because they don't have the minister here in the morning, but they have him here for night.
Oh, probably because he's got his church, he does it in the morning.
Yeah,
And
then
he comes in and does the evening.
Does the evening.
That's
And we
nice
have
of him.
a full house down there when they come. I mean, just a lot of the people in here all go in the evening then. And I knew I wasn't going to plan to go tonight. The little lady that lives just across from me, that the one that her son-in-law has cancer bad, and he used to be a neighbor of ours that lived in Chris's house, Chris Herman's.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was their son that has the cancer, and married this lady's that moved in here over there in the second house. Married her daughter. Well, one day he came to see me, and after he had had his treatment, and was going to wanted to tell me that his mother-in-law wanted to move closer to them, and so wondered if I would have her come and look at my apartment. And I said, sure. So I met the mother-in-law then. She was from up in Nebraska. And so I showed her the apartment and showed her the different things that they do for you here. And now she's my little neighbor. Mm. And so the funny part was that I just love her. And so she and I generally walk up for church then, up the, well, we go downstairs for church. And so anyway, I've got to get in touch with her in a little bit because to tell her that I'm not going tonight, and so that she can run on if she'd like to, and so I'll do that in a little bit.
Okay, yeah, we'll be done in a minute or two.
Now that we're going to go take a bite and eat somewhere.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
I'd like to do that.
And we thought out of Candlewood.
Well, what's Candlewood?
That it's closer here.
Is that Applebee's or something? Or, that's a restaurant?
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah, that'd be fine.
And it's easier to get to, and
yeah.
So it would.
Okay.
Okay, that'll be
Sounds
fine.
good. Yeah, the other thing I was wanting to talk, I think when we were about some of that stuff, the hardest thing, back to the hardest thing about losing a child that I've, has been
about
losing a child.
Oh yes.
Again, is sometimes reliving that day and remembering that day, and sometimes you'll be laying awake at night and I'll remember the day that he passed away and the events that happened on that.
This is so true, Tom.
And it just seems like you don't forget it, even as this happened how many years ago, and you still can remember?
I do remember, but I just have forgotten what years that would have been.
Yeah. But you just kind of...
But it stays with you. It just... because, see, that would have been in the 30s when we lost little Jimmy in 1934, or no, in 35. And so it's that's a long time, but you go right back through, even after the funeral, after that, and all the things that happened. Those, I can just see everybody yet as they were coming through and what they were doing, and you don't get those out of your mind. And you've got to occasionally in order to get, life goes on. But they stay there very permanently in your mind. And it's a thing that, they just had so many of these kind of things happen in our time that like I said, I try to keep my mind on the fun things. That helps me, and but the rest of it follows them. But it's hard to help a person that maybe never went through this before. Themselves, because it's new to you at first, and so it'd be hard to help a new person that has a tragedy hit, than it is if somebody's had one, and maybe it isn't as hard to be with them. But maybe I'm wrong.
So do you feel like the second one, that the car accident when Billy died, was it the first? Did Jimmy's death prepare you for that, you think, or was it just as bad, or what was the?
You mean with
when you had Billy? When Billy, he was the second one, right?
No, let's see, Bill and Larry.
No, the second death. The second one was Billy's car accident.
Yes, the car accident.
And although that was 22 years later.
Yes.
And how did that? Did you?
Oh,
did it impact you and bring back all the memories of Jimmy?
Not at that time. It didn't at that time, because this was such a thing that we had planned so much, for him coming and doing this and that. And I can't, as I remember, I never, until the day of the funeral, then it really dawned on me that there is little Jimmy over there, and then Billy, and then, of course, then now later was Richard. And then
when you were at the cemetery, that's when it dawned on you.
That's what I meant. And so some things followed similar in the way it was handled, and some were different, and so it was hard to kind of plan things like maybe if you make plans to do this or that at the funeral, whatever, but they don't always follow through that way, and so there was no reason to have it like that, to be one like the other. And because I know with Billy, they had his picture on there, with him, a big picture of him, and we didn't have that with the other boys. But these are things that's so minor, and really, but it's just a thing you think about that would maybe be the thing to do, But I sure don't want people having to have that many funerals, because that's an awful lot to carry. And but like I said, it's just a thing that we have to just you don't. If you stop, you aren't going to hear up nobody. I see you didn't dare just stop what you had when you lost your little one, or where would you be? So see, you just have to keep on doing. And that's what God wants you to. And I know this. So we'll be, just try to be, I don't know, I make a lot of mistakes, I know, in things I do probably, but I sure, I do a lot of talking to the Lord. Don't think I talk to him, and sometimes I feel as though he answered me before I was ready. But I got there and couldn't have shocked at some of the answers that I got when I'd ask for something, and there would be the answer.
Is this with relation with the?
That what, dear?
Is this with relation to the deaths of your boys or something? The prayers you're talking about, or just general things?
It's even to health.
Yeah.
Mostly. If I have to keep my health, or I can't do nothing. So I'm not a very healthy lady, I don't think, but then I try to keep it going.
Yeah.
And I said I had lots of surgeries and different things, but it doesn't matter. What I meant was all I want now, that I pray for most of all, is to give me health so I can do my duties. And that's what I'm wanting more than anything. And so you will have felt like, oh my goodness, why did I go to Aunt Violet's as old lady?
Oh no. Go back to your, you were talking about praying to the Lord. So did you ever say anything like, why, Lord, did you take my boys, or were you like, where were you at in that?
I don't know if I did. Let me see what is that my phone again?
That's your phone. You are just a busy woman.
Well, if one girl came to see me one day. They'll say there was a girl came to visit me one day, and while she was here, she was sitting here and I was over there, and we were visiting. The door, I got up to go see what was that. No more set down telephone ring. It did that for the longest time. And this girl said, you know what, I think you need help. and
I know what she means.
And
we've had at least, have
well,
there been 10 calls today?
Oh,
at least a half a dozen.
And you know what, it's kind of a funny thing. They tell me that I have more company than anybody else on the floor.
I believe them.
And
does this happen every day, or is just Sunday more than others?
No, well, of course,
Sunday's probably a bigger day.
a little more so, but I do know that through the week, have quite a few extra visitors that I wouldn't have maybe on Sunday, and but in the evening would be a lot of them stop by, but I guess it isn't anything wrong with it.
No.
Because I do get lonely if I'm all alone. Then if I feel this. Well, then I get busy and go to my sewing machine and just sew. And so I love to. That's my best friend, because I can get away from thinking, and I make things and cover all my pillows, and I do lot. I just keep doing. And so I keep awful busy here.
Yeah.
But let's see now what you got
Okay,
on.
well, we were talking about, actually, one of the things I remembered about when Stephen died, at the funeral, there was just such an immense...
When who did?
When my Stephen died, there was such a large number of people that came to the funeral.
Yeah.
And you were talking about people coming to Jimmy's funeral and just remembering everybody that was there, and just an unusual.
Yeah.
Just because when it's a child that is that small, it's just all of a sudden, and it just shocks everybody.
This is so true.
And even I mean, especially with it's actually with any child.
Yes,
it seems like it's such a shocker.
Like, that would have been like when little Jimmy, my goodness, that was a monster. And the worst part about that in the getting things ready, this happened, and real fast, the accident, and that he was gone. And that when they got there, the funeral director said, "We got to have this funeral tomorrow." And we said, "What?" And they said, "It's in June, and it's so hot, and due to his injuries, I said we can't embalm him, so we'll have to have the funeral right tomorrow." And we didn't have a lot, so we had to go and look up the people that had the lots and buy our lot, and then we had to go to the church to get lined up for the minister, and then there was no time for us to ever call anybody. There were so many people there that we could not believe that in one day how they got messages that to come to the funeral. No way, nobody could understand it either. Said, well, how did you hear it? And they'd say, somebody called me. And it was the telephones that got everybody alerted, because you couldn't get a newspaper even. It wasn't in the newspaper, it wasn't anywhere. And there was that big bunch of people. And so I do know that people do care a lot if it's a young person. I mean, that bothers a lot. And because you're not expecting it, that's one thing. And so it's a good feeling to know people care, but it bothers you. How in the world did so many know about this?
So that made me think of another question. When the Herman plot up there on Riverside Cemetery.
On where?
Riverside Cemetery is where Jimmy's buried.
Yeah.
there is a Herman area there. That was already there whenever, at that time, wasn't it? Because hadn't Peter and Sophia died? And
Yeah.
so the plot, they had probably bought the plot. So,
Oh.
okay, so you at least knew where the church, where the burial place was going to be. You just didn't know exactly which lot. Is that what you?
Now, is he buried in where?
He's who?
Your little one.
Mine's buried in Kansas City.
Oh, yes, okay.
We're next
But who
to-
were you
we're-
talking with?
Jimmy is buried up in Riverside.
Yes.
But so there's a whole big family plot there.
Oh, yeah, see, the grandpas and the great-grandpa and,
Yeah, and evidently Peter or somebody must have bought all the lot up there.
well, they did, but they bought that, well, they had a piece left for us that we bought it.
Okay.
Now that where Bud is, and now all the boys are there except Larry.
Except Larry, yeah.
Uh-huh. And Larry was going to, they had their lot and stone and everything in Nebraska at Omaha, and where they lived all the while. He's worked up there for 29 years or 30.
Mhm.
And so anyway, then decided that it really would be better if they weren't up there alone now, because nobody would be there. So they moved then when Larry passed away, why, he's buried in Wamego,
Mm.
and their one son. And so the funeral was in Omaha, and we all were in Omaha, and then the whole procedure came from Omaha to Wamego.
Mm.
It was quite a thing that day.
Did the whole there was a whole funeral procession that
Uh-huh.
came all the way from Omaha to Wamego?
Not all the people from up there didn't, but we had an awful lot of people that were in the procession coming down to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, just there was a group.
Because the
but-
funeral was up there.
Yes.
And then loaded up, and then came from Omaha down to Wamego. And so it was quite a procedure, but
Mhm.
it was, and I was so glad that they were going to be buried there, because Felda, that'd be Larry's wife, her mother and dad are buried there. And I said they'll be there to take care of, the cemetery if they need anything. But they're both gone now. So they both passed away. And so I'm the only grandma and grandpa they got.
Mm.
And, but even the boy that lives in Kansas City, Melissa's son, he took me to all the cemeteries last year. I thought they're very good to me to do these kind of things, so I could be there and
Mm-hmm. Back to the thing about it being a shocker, when it's a shocking thing when a infant or a child dies. The one thing I can remember that has, that bothers you, has bothered me through this, is just the remembering the things that could have been.
could have done instead of did.
Stephen would probably be going to college right now.
Yeah.
So you have these thoughts going through your mind.
I know.
Is that something that you've experienced?
Well, don't know if I guess after we'd lost the first one, I don't know if I ever really was thinking too much about thinking ahead, because I found out that it's like that. It's over with him, little Jimmy, and there was no plans made. But we made more plans with Billy because time came along, and so I noticed that we did have the thinking of the things that I'm sure was really happy he was going to go to be a doctor, and but these things, then it was stopped right there. Well, then to have lose Richard, I felt so sorry for Richard, because he idolized Bill, and then when he was hurt so bad, and then I've got a letter somewhere in there, the doctor wrote me I wrote and asked him if there would have been anything that I could have done to make him, you know, to not get despondent. And he said not to worry, that they're, because if they are injured and like that, that they'll eventually, you know, probably take their life or whatever. So he said that I shouldn't spend time worrying about that. And I thought I could have done more maybe to help him, but he didn't think I could have. So, and I don't think I could either. Because I know that, well, I would talk to him when he would, I had the phone number for his dinner hour, and I could call him, talk to him. And I told him that I wondered, I knew he was so homesick. Oh, he was homesick. And I knew that he was wanting to come home. And I said, well, I wrote to the minister up there and asked if they would be possible you could come home on leave. And he said, Mom, if I came home on leave, I don't think I'd ever come back. And he knew that was not the way to go. If he did it wrong, you know, he would be leaving the Navy. Why, that would be wrong. And so that might be why he just decided this is it. And so that he, rather than cause trouble.
Okay, well, we were also talking about